Let me ask you a question, because obviously one of the things that's important to the progressive movement is the environment. And, you know, most people, they can't get past the idea of the basics. I mean, they know, oh my God, fossil fuels, and then some of the buzzwords. But, you know, when I hear people talk about eco-socialism and other adjacent belief systems that can leverage an understanding of MMT, you know, I oftentimes hear people speak in terms that are quite foreign to what an average person that might be interested in getting involved or might be interested in seeking candidates that can achieve those goals. Can you talk about the perspective from an economist and how individuals might be able to relate the economy to the environment? Are there measures, are there ways to assess?
There are. I mean, the best way to look at it is just to, what I tend to do if I'm teaching my students is I'll just draw a circle and I'll call that the natural environment or the natural ecosystem. So we're talking at a global level, and I'll just draw a box inside it and I'll call that the economy. And I'll say to my students, okay, that box, if it's increasing in size, that's the economy growing. Can that box grow to the point where it exceeds the size of the circle, which is non-growing? And of course the answer is no. Now even if you've got a steady state economy where the box is no longer growing, you still need to maintain the goods that form part of that economy, because goods wear out, they're consumed, and durable goods wear out through depreciation and so forth. So you're always going to have production to replace the goods that wear out through use and are consumed. In order to produce, you need to use natural resources. You can't produce goods from thin air. So then you have an arrow from the inside the circle going into the box called the economy, which is resources in. And then, of course, for a period of time, you've got goods and services floating around the economy. They get destroyed through direct consumption and they wear out through use, and they exit as the matter and energy embodied in those goods and services as waste. And in fact, there's two very basic physical laws that a lot of people may have heard of, but I don't know whether they understand them or not. They're quite simple, really. They're the first and second laws of thermodynamics. And the first law is the law of conservation of matter and energy. So it's impossible to destroy or create matter and energy. So effectively, when resources enter the economy, there's a certain amount of matter and energy embodied in them. And the amount of matter and energy that enters the economy as resources exits as waste. So, in fact, you hear a lot of people talk about zero waste. Zero waste is impossible. If you've got resources entering the economy to produce goods, to maintain the economy at a particular physical scale, you are going to have waste. Of course, the real issue is how much waste, how many resources can be provided on a sustainable basis by the natural environment. And effectively, we can use resources at a rate on a sustainable basis, so long as it doesn't exceed the capacity of the natural environment to regenerate resources. So as long as we extract resource from the environment no greater than resources can regenerate, we can have a sustainable input of resources. But of course, there's the waste side as well. And most of the global environmental problems are on the waste side, not on the resource side. So the old Club of Rome report from 1972 talked about how we might run out of particular resources. It would seem that it's not so much running out of resources that's going to be the problem. It's the fact that the amount of waste we're generating is exceeding the capacity of the natural environment to safely assimilate those wastes. And some of those are, of course, carbon dioxide emissions. So the rate at which carbon dioxide is being generated and is exiting the economy back to the natural environment exceeds the capacity of the natural environment to absorb it. In fact, current global greenhouse gas emissions are 5 times the capacity of the natural environment to safely assimilate those greenhouse gases. So we need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to 1/5 of what they currently are globally, just to stabilise the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. So a lot of people confuse stocks and flows of greenhouse gases. So when you hear of greenhouse gas emissions, we're talking about flows. When you hear someone say, oh, there's, say, X parts per million of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, that's the stock. So the amount of greenhouse gas emissions going into the stock of greenhouse gases is 5 times what's exiting through the assimilation of greenhouse gases by the natural environment. So you can see that I think it might have been 2009, which was just after the global financial crisis, I think, which occurred about 2008. For that particular year, global greenhouse gas emissions fell slightly. And people were jumping for joy saying, oh, the concentration of greenhouse gases has gone down. And, of course, that wasn't right. It went from about 5 times what the environment can assimilate to, let's say, 4.99 times. But it was still, the concentration was still going up. So the concentration of greenhouse gas in the atmosphere is going up and will continue to do so until we reduce greenhouse gas emissions to 1/5 of their current level. And I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do that. Yeah, I really can't see that ever happening, sadly.